Thank you so much for coming out tonight. And welcome officially to A Night to Believe. This is a celebration of our third annual OCD Awareness Week. And we are so excited about the way this project has evolved over the past 3 years. Some of you were with us here last year as we held our first annual evening to celebrate Awareness Week. And we are only building on the successes of that event tonight. And we're very excited about the program that we have for you. As you know, we are here to celebrate a new campaign that we've launched called Dare to Believe. And throughout the evening, you're going to be hearing from winners of our Dare to Believe contest with the idea of showcasing this new theme of ours through storytelling and through poetry and through music and through animation. My name is Jeff Bell. I am very privileged to serve as the national spokesperson for the International OCD Foundation. It's a great serendipitous arc in my life to be able to give back to this organization that literally saved my life many, many years ago. My first call, once diagnosed with OCD, was to what was then the OC Foundation, and it was that organization, this organization, that pointed me in the direction of proper treatment. And I stand before you today because of this organization. And it is such a thrill to be able to be a part of this wonderful group and all the volunteers and the staff and folks who make this possible. And more than any of us, it's all about you, the folks who support this organization. So we thank you so much for coming out tonight. I want to thank McLean Hospital, our co-sponsors tonight, and all the terrific folks who are doing so much great work on behalf of the OCD community through McLean. You'll be hearing from some of them throughout the evening as well. I have been given the privilege of sharing with you tonight to kick off our program a little bit about what this message, Dare to Believe, means to me. And those of you who are familiar with my outreach over the past 5 years know that it has been my tagline. And it has been, at a very personal level, my mantra for years and years and years. Because for me, daring to believe is standing up to what I call the OCD bully. Because OCD is all about doubt. Our disorder is often called the doubting disease. And daring to believe is about looking that doubt in the eyes and saying, I will take you on, and I will win. And that is what our campaign is about. It's about daring to believe beyond the doubt. It's about daring to believe that treatment works. It's about daring to believe that we're not alone. It's about daring to believe that there is hope and that there is help. And we're all very excited about this campaign. And I want to share with you a quick personal story about the origins of this for me. And then we're going to move into our program and introduce you to some people who exemplify so well what this message is all about, this notion of daring to believe. So 30 years ago, I was a very confused 17-year-old. I was just graduating high school, and I was dealing with an undiagnosed disorder at that time. And I didn't know what was happening in my life, but I knew that at some core level, doubt was at the center of it. And it's easy for me with hindsight to look back now and see that. But at the time, I'm not sure that the 17-year-old kid I was really put all that together. But apparently he put it enough together to go out and buy a really cheap silver-plated dog tag and take it to a mall jeweler and have him engrave on that a single word. And that word was believer. And I was graduating high school, and I set off on a Greyhound tour of the United States. This was my big plan for graduating high school. And I wore that dog tag, and I survived all kinds of very interesting ordeals over the course of 6 weeks on a Greyhound bus traveling the country. But when I look back on my life, that was probably the most carefree time in my life. Either my OCD was in remission during those days, or I was somewhere in between childhood onset OCD and adult OCD, which would kick in later. But I wore that dog tag as a badge of honor about the man I wanted to be. I wanted to be a believer. And in the years that followed, I found myself doing anything but believing as I became a victim to this doubting disease. And I want to share with you just a quick little passage from my book, and I apologize for reading out of this, but I realized that when I wrote this particular passage, I was a lot closer to this time back in the mid-90s when I was at my very worst. And so I wanted to speak more along the lines of what I was feeling in 1995. And this is a quick passage about when I rediscovered that dog tag that I had bought so many years before and had put away in a drawer after that Greyhound bus trip. I can't remember just when, after the bus trip, I stopped wearing the dog tag. What I do know is when and why I put it back on. It was shortly after my brief visit with Jackie, my first therapist. And it was because of the identity meltdown I found myself battling in the early weeks of 1995. Doubt, I was learning, consumes from the inside out. And with each passing day, it gnawed away that much more of my core. The guy in the mirror still looked about the same, but no longer could I recognize much beyond his reflection. Night after night, the nagging questions haunted me. Whatever happened to that carefree kid on the Greyhound bus? What would he, the great aspiring believer, think of me, the pathological doubter? How devastated would he feel watching me try to walk away from my parked car, checking and rechecking the doors and the parking brake, incapable of believing even my own physical senses? Our only common link, it would strike me, in moments of bone-chilling reality, was this weathered dog tag. I catch myself sliding back and forth on its chain, begging it to remind me of what I once fancied myself to be and how to get back there again. Well, this is that dog tag, 30 years later. It says believer. You probably couldn't read it even if you were looking at it very close because it's so worn thin after all these years. But it is still what guides me through the ongoing challenges of recovering from OCD. It's the notion of daring to believe. And I want to challenge all of you to do that tonight and to take in the messages that you're about to hear from our winners and from some folks across the world who have sent in messages that we're going to share with you tonight. And collectively, we as an OCD community can dare to believe that we are not alone in this battle. So thank you for coming out tonight. It is my great pleasure to formally kick off the program by bringing up a woman who has been at the leadership of our organization for many years now and who quietly goes about keeping us all in line and making sure the work gets done and making sure that this broad vision that we're talking about here tonight of believing is implemented in very effective ways. Please join me in a warm welcome for the IOCDF President, Diane Davey.
Oh, hello. Thank you so much to all of you for coming. I want to thank all of you again, as Jeff said, for being here and for supporting us. As both the president of the International OCD Foundation and the program director of the OCD Institute here at McLean, I just want to say that I can't think of two more worthy organizations and two organizations that I could not be more proud to be associated with. The people and both the organizations and the work that they do are just so amazing. And it's really, really great that they have teamed up tonight to bring you this event. And I want to echo Jeff's thank you, especially to McLean, for co-sponsoring this event tonight and for being such a supporter of the OCD Foundation over the years. So a really big thank you to McLean for being there for us again this year. I've been working in the field of OCD for many years now, and I often have people ask me if I have a personal connection to OCD. Do I have OCD? Does somebody in my family have OCD? And is that the reason why I chose to do this work? And in fact, it was really just a set of kind of happy coincidences that led me into the field of OCD. But shortly after I began working at the OCD Institute, both my sister-in-law and the 13-year-old daughter of one of my closest childhood friends were both diagnosed with OCD. And fortunately, we were able to help them bypass what I'm sure many of you know can be one of the biggest struggles of this disease, which is just finding and accessing correct treatment. And luckily, thanks to some of the people in this room, they are both doing very well today. But, you know, I think that there's something so kind of serendipitous and a little bit backwards that I found my way into this this work, and then members of my own family and people very close to me were diagnosed with OCD, and that I was able to help them. But I think that I really used Robin and Emily as an inspiration to me in my work every day, because I get so many phone calls from people every single day in my job, especially at the OCD Institute. And what I try to remember, and I think what Robin and Emily inspire me to remember, is that all of the people that call me are somebody's sister-in-law, somebody's spouse, somebody's friend, somebody's child. And wouldn't it be nice if somebody was responding to them in the same way that I was able to respond to them, as sort of an insider and somebody that would really help them find their way through this almost, you know, sort of unnavigatable system at times. And I think that that's really what I try to do, and I think is really at the core and the essence of the mission of the OCD Foundation, is really to try to help people with OCD and their families find their way. And, you know, I can't think of enough adjectives to describe all the ways in which the OCD Foundation does that, by raising awareness, by educating treatment providers, by raising money for research, by educating people. You know, all of these things are really the things that more and more make people able to turn to this organization and make getting help that much easier. The struggle in and of itself is enough, and it shouldn't be such a struggle to find out information about the disorder and to access treatment. And so I really feel like that's one of the reasons why I stay involved with the organization, is because there's such a tremendous resource for all of you. So I am so proud too and pleased to introduce our first award recipient tonight, Kendra Matazzi, who had to teach me how to say her name correctly earlier. Kendra is the winner of this year's animation contest. She earned her BFA in animation at the Massachusetts College of Art and Design in Boston, where she currently lives. At age 23, she has been battling OCD since childhood and wanted to tell her story through her animation. And currently, she is an associate producer at the local animation studio, Cloud Kid. I was telling Kendra earlier that I saw her video after the conference this year and thought it was so fabulous, and I've actually been showing it to patients at the OCD Institute when they tell me that either I or people don't understand what it is that they're going through. And I think Kendra's video, as you'll see, is just a perfect illustration of, so briefly, it captures perfectly, I think, what people's experience is. So I'm so proud to introduce her and bring her up for her award.
Thank you. So my name is Kendra, and at MassArt, for the animation program, when you're a senior, you have to make your degree project, which is basically one animation you work on all year long. And I knew I wanted to make something with live action, because I had done in the past, and something that was like a personal story. Wasn't really sure what it was going to be. And we went to the Ottawa Animation Festival. We would go every year, and I remember I saw the animation Like Me Only Better, which was actually in the running for this. And I saw it and I thought, this is great. This is a great outlet. Like, I can animate about this and tell my story that way. And so that was my inspiration. And I remember I told my class I wanted to make a film about OCD, and it didn't really go over very well because people were making fun videos about little girls and flowers and teddy bears. And so I decided I'm going to do it anyway. And I had no idea how. So I just set up a camera and I started talking to the camera by myself about OCD and everything I've dealt with in the past, and little anecdotes. And it got to be me just like telling the camera how I felt and my honest feelings about it. And I wound up with about 80 minutes of footage of me talking alone in a room that I had to sift through because our degree project could only be 3 minutes long. And I also needed to animate somewhere in there. So I wound up cutting it down to about 1.5 minutes of live footage and then 1.5 minutes of animation because it had to be even. And so I did that, and that's what it turned out to be. And when I made it, you know, I was thinking, it's probably not going to get past my college classroom walls. It's probably not going to go anywhere. Mass Art animation program really tries to drive home, like submit to festivals, try to get it out there, put it online. So I did all those things, and it didn't really go anywhere. And I wanted to show it. I knew I wanted to show it in a venue that something having to do with OCD or like any sort of medical background. Maybe someone could see it, maybe it'll inspire people, maybe people can connect to it, maybe people will learn something from it. So the fact that this happened is like totally crazy and perfect and exactly what I wanted to happen. So I guess now we're going to play it, and I hope it goes well.
My name is Kendra, and I have OCD. I've had it for as long as I can remember. Literally, like, I had it when I was little. Then there's present day Kendra with OCD. Germs, sponges, salmonella commercials. Whose idea was it to have a sponge? I'm gonna find that man, I'm gonna dig him up and punch him. Who was brilliant enough to be like, I know, make a porous foam, soak up all the bacteria and all the germs, things that'll like crawling in it, touch it against, transfer those germs. My chicken thigh juice is there, gross with the germs and the salmonella. Nothing's on plates in these commercials. So say I wash a dish, take a sponge. That's not cleaning anything, that's transferring. Willy-nilly. I mean, ideally. When people know that I have it, and then it's kind of just like an understood thing. Like, oh yeah, Kendra. She's the one with OCD. They kind of assume that I have like superpowers of some sort. Someone will be looking at me and they'll be like, oh, this comb. Kendra, how many teeth are on this comb? I'm not Rain Man. Kendra, how many nails are in this box? Kendra, how many leaves are on that tree? Kendra, how many blades of grass are in this meadow? I don't know, you tell me. I'm not that good. Driving's not exactly like the safest thing in the world. As each radio station comes up, I have to add it. 101.1, 3, 106.1, 8, 107.1, 9, 88.1, 17. So I'll be looking at the station, looking up, clicking it, math, looking back up, turning my direction. Overwhelming, my eyes start to hurt. Looking down, looking up, looking down, looking up, looking down, looking up. Adding in my head, looking down, looking up. Maybe I'll start to swerve. Anyone out there who's ever ridden in a car with me while I was driving, I'm gonna apologize to you right now. Sometimes my mind tells me, you gotta take this next turn, or you're never gonna get married. I'm gonna be damn well taking that turn. Don't question me. What if I'm going like 50 miles per hour? Speed over time, velocity, direction, math things. To cut someone off. I'm a good driver when my OCD isn't kicking in. If you never want to get in a car with me because I need to take that turn so I get married, I understand. To follow that up, if you're watching this now and you decide you don't ever want to marry me, I also understand. You know what else is gross? The 5-second rule. That's bull. 5-second rule. You gotta be kidding me, right? Who invented the 5-second rule? Oh, I can eat it because I have that extra 4-second buffer zone. No. What happens if, say I take my chocolate chip cookie, drop the cookie into a pile of dog poo-poo? The dog poo-poo. So what if there's dog poo-poo all over my cookie? Ooh. Wrong. 5-second rule. This is such crap, guys. Don't eat it. Go get another cookie. Bacteria. There's plenty of cookies in the world. Go eat other cookies. Don't eat that cookie. Virus. You don't need to eat that cookie. Throw that cookie away. 5-second rule, my ass. My name is Kendra McCaffrey, and I have OCD. 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 The title of my degree project is going to be OCD plus me equals 5. OCD plus me equals 5. It's been tough. Degree project class has been quite a journey. I would say.
Wow. Hey, Kendra, can we get you back up here? Yeah, why don't you grab that other microphone there? Okay. There we go. Okay. So we wanted to bring Kendra back up, and one of the things that we're going to do tonight is kind of debrief all of our winners and give you a chance to learn a little bit more about what was involved in their putting together their winning entries. Animated. It's animated. And we're going to find out a little bit about how Kendra brought her own personal story to her animation. But first, how about a big round of applause again for
Thank you.
So you and I had a chance to talk a little earlier in the week, and we talked about the power of humor.
Yeah.
And I want to hear from you a little bit about how humor has helped you in your own recovery, because clearly you have a great sense of humor.
Thank you. It's just the editing.
It's just,
Not that funny.
I sometimes hear, and I remember, when I think back on my own journey, there was a time where I had no sense of humor about any of this. My wife's always had a great sense of humor, and she would, kind of, in a very best-intentioned way, poke fun at some things, and I was not ready for that. Was there a time in your darkest days with OCD where you couldn't laugh the way you laugh now about these things?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think when it was, because for a long time it was just my parents that knew. I didn't tell my friends, and, other family members had no idea. So I think it was the fact that I never really talked about it, and just they were the only ones that knew, and they were the only ones that saw it, and they would try to almost fix it themselves, like, just stop doing that. And that just felt like a lot of pressure to have to deal with, and I never got to really reach out to other people to help me with it. So I remember when I was in high school, I started telling my friends, and I started showing them and be like, when I do this, like, this is OCD, and I would try to cover it up, and that's how I've gotten this far, is by covering it up. And so I think once I got in high school and I started telling people and talking to my friends about it and being open about it and discussing it, that made it a lot more comfortable to talk about it and be able to laugh at it. And not laugh at it, but be able to use humor to get through it. And so that's when that started, yeah.
You talked about some of the misconceptions out there. And incidentally, how many times is the word OCD repeated on this?
I haven't counted. I don't know. This was blocking this half, so I couldn't count down there.
The point that some friends
Exactly.
would think you're Rain Man, though. I
Yeah.
mean, I think that all of us with OCD have had an encounter like that where
Yeah.
people completely miss what we're all about. Talk, if you would, about what your commitment is to getting the right message out there.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I had a doctor, and it was the first time my parents kept telling me, just tell your doctor, like, let's talk through it. And I had a new doctor, and I told him, I think that I have OCD. I've had it forever. I've done all these things forever. I have these thoughts. And I remember the doctor said, oh, what do? Flip the light switch a bunch of times? Oh, everyone just awed. And I remember thinking, wow, what? Really? That's how you're going to react to this? So that was kind of a moment where I'm like, okay, not everyone's going to get it. Not everyone's going to react the way I want them to react. That's what that segment of the animation was about like, oh, you're Rain Man. You know everything. You obviously count everything. That's what you do, right? And it's the assumptions that are really frustrating, and I think other people with OCD can really connect with that, is that's what people do. They just make wild assumptions about it. And I didn't want people to think that because there's humor in this piece that I'm making fun of OCD or I'm treating it lightly, and we had talked about that. It's just how I deal with it. So I made it thinking no one was really going to see it, so I don't know, but that's how I dealt with it. That's how I wanted to tell my story. And if people with OCD watch it and they feel connected to it, great. If they agree with some of the things, great. I don't mean to make people feel bad by any means with the humor.
Part of our new campaign is Dare to Believe, and this whole idea of daring and risking. Well, clearly you are risking by putting your story out there. Mm-hmm. How does that feel? How does it feel to put yourself out in front of all these people, and not just these people, but our worldwide stream tonight of people who are watching your video?
Yeah.
Thanks, Jeff.
Oh my gosh. What?
but you are daring to believe tonight. Talk about that.
Well, Well, I've gotten more confident with it, about being able to throw myself out there with it. And I think making the animation really helped me with that, because you have to present to your class, this is what I want to do my animation about. And, and I said, I have OCD and I want to animate about it. And then nothing, silence was in the room. I was like, well, maybe I won't, maybe that's a bad idea. And so that kind of opened this door where I'm like, okay, I'm going to be confident about it. I'm going to stick to my guns. I would get a lot of feedback of, you should make this more experimental, or no, animate it this way, animate it that way. And I said, forget it, I'm going to do exactly how I want to do it. And that's given me the confidence to really be myself, to just accept it, grasp it, and be okay with it, and dare to believe.
Excellent. And finally, the whole point of this campaign and the point of our evening tonight is to inspire other people out there who perhaps aren't ready to dare to believe themselves. And we collectively want to say to them, we're here for you, and we want to encourage you to take that step. Speak directly to him or her out there who's watching tonight.
Yeah, I mean, if you can watch this animation and if you see that you can find humor in it, you can, that is a coping mechanism maybe for you, maybe it's not. It's a way of seeing that other people have it. You can talk about it. You can be open about it. That's how I've dealt with it this far. I tried the therapy route. It didn't work for me. Now I'm just open with it and accepting it, and I used my friends and family to get through it. And so if you're stuck and you don't know what to do, try talking about it. Try expressing it through an art form maybe. And I know it helped me, so it might help you. I don't know.
Can we finally put you on the spot tonight even more?
Okay.
And ask you to commit to us as an OCD community to continue to use your great talents to help share our story?
Sure, absolutely.
We'd love that.
Yeah.
How about a big round of applause for Kendra? A small token of our appreciation for you to hang up on your wall. Thank you, Kendra. We have some remarkable folks who are involved tonight, and not just the ones who are here. We want to be sure to put a shout out there of thanks to everybody who submitted entries, not just our winners, but the many talented folks who submitted in each of our 4 divisions. One of the other projects that we're really excited about this year is something called our Messages of Hope campaign. And really this underlies everything that we're doing with Dare to Believe, which is trying to convey hope, as Kendra has done with her animation, as you're going to hear from the songs and the poetry and the stories that we share tonight. The whole idea is to convey hope. The whole idea is to convey what's possible when we collectively dare to believe. And so we wanted to test out an idea by asking the OCD community around the world to share with us their stories about how they have dared to believe, or how a family member, for example, has dared to believe, or in the case of the professionals, how a client has dared to believe, and what that message of hope might convey to the rest of the world. And so throughout the evening, we're going to be sharing just some of the messages of hope that have come in through the website. And this is a campaign that we hope will be able to continue to share with you throughout the year. But let me read just a couple of these to you right now. My name is Jason, and I am 34, and I've had OCD since the age of 12. I felt alone in the world until I found a book on OCD and found out a name for the disease I had. I struggled to find a therapist and a doctor who cared about me enough to try and help me. The IOCDF and therapy have changed my life. I still have OCD, but I have more good days than bad. Keep believing in yourself and remember to do CBT. You can beat OCD. This is from a therapist. As a therapist, I see how difficult it is to battle OCD, but I also know how treatable it is with the right treatment and support. I think the IOCDF is a great resource, and it is nice to know that there is a safe place where we can share recovery stories that are so inspiring. And again, throughout the evening, we'll share a few more of these that have come in from youngsters and from adults and from family members and from OCD sufferers and from therapists. I want to encourage all of you to weigh in as well with your success stories, because the more we can speak with one voice collectively about the power of believing, the more we're going to be able to impact people in the OCD community from around the world. So we're going to move on now to our next segment, and that brings me to bringing up our executive director, Jeff Szymanski. And Jeff is going to talk a little bit about the OCD in Kids and Teens program, and specifically our new website, which we are all very proud of. And Jeff's going to tell us a little bit about how that came to be, what resources we hope to convey through that, and the importance, our commitment to reaching out to the teens and kids in our community. So, ladies and gentlemen, Executive Director of the IOCDF, Jeff Szymanski.
So I was thinking I was just going to talk about kids, but that needs to be straightened out. What's interesting is I do start out media interviews talking about the difference between obsessiveness as a personality trait and compulsiveness as a personality trait, and even perfectionism as a personality trait. And it's different than the disorder. I'm compulsive. I'm a happy perfectionist. It is very different than the experience that people have with OCD. In fact, I have a friend of mine who notices that everything in my house has a particular place. Everything is supposed to have a particular place. And he, when I'm not looking, will move things in my house to see if I'm paying attention. But it's an interesting conversation because what happens in our conversation is, again, that this is a personality quirk for me. This is a preference for me. And it gets mixed in with OCD. And so I start all of my education with people with the idea that I'm, again, a proudly proclaimed perfectionist, and that is very, very different from someone that has an anxiety disorder. The waking up every day to an avalanche of internal anxiety, crushing anxiety on a day-to-day basis. And now imagine that happens for an adult, and now we have a better understanding of what happens for kids. In fact, we estimate there's somewhere between 500,000 and 1 million kids right now in this country with OCD. That's about 4 or 5 kids in an average elementary school. That's as many as 20 teenagers in a large high school. So I get to introduce Mystery. She might think she's the only person in her school with OCD. She may be, she may not be. And that is what is so interesting about this disorder, is how hidden it is and how little people are talking about the experience of it. And that's why we want to do this contest, to get people to begin talking about the experience of their OCD so that we can better educate people. So the foundation had historically run what I think is an amazing program, the OCD in the Classroom program, which is about educating school personnel about what OCD looks like in kids so that they aren't punishing what looks like problem behavior. Instead, they're beginning to identify, oops, wait a minute, this is OCD. How can I talk with the parents and get them involved with proper treatment? So earlier, well, actually about a year ago, we put together a committee on our scientific advisory board to put together a website, OCDinkids.org, and all the information on that website was written by the leading pediatric OCD experts in the country. And there's information there for parents, there's information there specifically for younger kids, there's information for teens and young adults, there's information for school personnel, and there's information for mental health providers who might be thinking, oops, it looks like I have a kid that I'm treating that might have OCD, and we want to get them better educated and make sure that they feel competent to treat that kid with OCD, otherwise they want to make a referral. So those are the kinds of things that we're doing at the foundation. And again, if you think about the experience that people have with OCD, most people are reporting that it happens when they are a kid. The average onset is happening between the ages of 10 and 12. And the other spike in onset is late adolescence, early adulthood, the kind of 18 to 22-year-old range. So historically, the foundation has spent a lot of time on OCD in adults. And we really want to build on the OCD in the Classroom program that was launched a number of years ago and begin emphasizing a little bit more on OCD in kids. So when we launched this contest, we had the privilege of Mystery submitting her poem. So I want to give this great introduction to her. She's the winner of our poetry contest. She's 10 years old, from Coshada, Louisiana. She's joined here by her parents, her sister, her grandparents. I heard her grandfather has season tickets to Texas A&M football. This is the first football game he's missed in 20 years, so that they could all fly up to see Mystery read her poem. Mystery was diagnosed with OCD at age 5 and with Asperger's syndrome at age 10. She loves horseback riding, drawing, reading, writing, and performing for an audience, which you're about to see. She also loves animals and has lots of pets: cats, dogs, rabbits, guinea pig, a rat, and fish. Mystery's poetry gives her a chance to express her feelings and to cope with her OCD. She hopes to continue making progress in understanding her feelings and working toward being able to function more easily in a world that is made better and brighter by unique individuals like her. Mystery Allman.
Special and Proud by Mystery Almond. Mystery is a special girl, but what makes her special? She is friendly and kind. She always speaks her mind. But we really need to go deep inside her. She is brave, but sometimes she's afraid of things she shouldn't be. She might get upset, and it's hard for her to forget when she starts repeating things. But other than that, she's normal, like a cat. And she's really nice, and she doesn't think twice when choosing right or wrong. But she may choose wrong, but that's okay. She tries hard every day. She may say the wrong stuff, but you know it's tough when you're kind of different. But that doesn't mean you can't be proud. Go ahead, shout it out loud, just like Mystery does. The end. P.S. Don't forget, be proud of yourself and be true, just like Mystery is, and all your friends won't forget you.
Yeah. Mystery, why don't you hang on to that microphone, and we're going to talk a couple minutes here. So, why don't you stay up here? I'll give you that microphone.
I'm really confused.
Well, you know why? Because we told you you'd be over here, but the camera people told me they'd rather see my back than your back, so we're going to do it this way here. So, Mystery, we're so pleased to have you here tonight. Are you sure you're only 10 years old?
Yes, I'm sure.
How long have you been writing poetry?
Well, I've been writing poetry for a while.
Yeah.
I can't really pinpoint when, but I have been writing stories about myself. Like, I've been trying to write novels, but I still haven't finished any.
You've got a few years.
Well, I started writing poetry because I just felt depressed. And when I was diagnosed with OCD, I was really scared. I didn't know what was going to become of me. I didn't know if my friends would accept me now that I knew what I had. I didn't know if my parents would accept me. I didn't know if anyone would understand me anymore. But I wrote poems and I expressed my feelings, and Harley?
Is that your sister out there taking pictures?
No, she's laughing at me.
Oh, okay. Mystery, how does it make you feel to look out here and see all these people that are so proud of you for sharing your story in such a beautiful way?
It makes me feel excited because I'm a bit of a show-off.
You're a natural up here in front of these people, aren't you? Tell us about what inspired that particular poem, because you did such a beautiful job of telling what it's like to live with OCD. So what made you decide to write that poem the way you did?
Well, I didn't really do it by choice. I was at therapy at an occupational therapy, Little Works.
Okay.
And my therapist wanted me to express what I thought made me complete. So I wrote this, and I kind of looked at it, and I was like, this makes me feel good. And I knew what I wrote it for, because I just threw it out there, and I wanted to make myself and others feel good.
Well, we sure appreciate that. Dr. Zemansky was talking about our new drive to help children and their parents with OCD. As a 10-year-old, speak, if you would, to the other children out there who might be watching tonight on the video stream or who are here in person tonight and are scared like you were when they first found out about their OCD. You have a success story. You've been able to get help, and you've been able to turn your life around. What would you tell those younger kids out there who are needing some encouragement today?
Well, it's not really right to be scared. Well, you need to dare. You need to dare yourself, like what this whole foundation is about, and what tonight is about. Dare to believing. I mean, daring to believe. And I just want to say to some of the other kids out there that it may be a rough path, but soon you'll get where you're going. And you'll be at the top. No matter how hard it is, if you fall down, you just get back up again.
That's the best advice right there. Mr. Reed, can we count on you to help us reach all those kids out there who need some help?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing your beautiful spirit with us tonight. Wow. Oh. And if that doesn't inspire you to dare to believe, I don't know what will. Oh, certificate. We forgot the best part. Come back up here. I'm so sorry. Let's make this official, Mr. Reed. Congratulations on your award. Okay. Are you having fun? It's pretty inspiring, isn't it? And we want to shout out to all of our visitors from around the world who are tuning in via the World Wide Web tonight as well. It's great to have you. I know there are viewing parties all across the country, and it's so exciting for us as an organization to see this Awareness Week spread and grow across the country and across the world. I want to share with you another message of hope that came in. But first, I need to find my glasses. This is from Kristen, who writes, I have OCD. I was diagnosed just 2 years ago at the age of 32. I was thrown almost instantly into the severe OCD, refusing to interact with nearly everyone around me and fear of contamination from all things public, including people. Not knowing where to turn, and after several therapists that did not have the skills to treat me, I found the person that gave me the skills to dare to believe. My life has changed 100%. I now dare to live out my values, sometimes second by second. Most importantly, I have learned to be kind and gentle to myself. There is effective treatment out there. Even though it is difficult, be willing to take risks and feel the freeness, if only for seconds at a time. It will get easier. Hope for a better tomorrow and dare to believe in yourself. Thank you, Kristen, for sharing that with us tonight. We're going to move along with our presentation, and it is my pleasure now to bring up my dear friend Joy Kant, who is going to introduce our next award winner and also share a little bit of her own personal journey and how she has dared to believe and how we in the OCD community have all benefited from Joy's belief. Joy?
Boy, after the wonderful things so far, I hope you'll still be entertained. While reading Megan Holden's short story, I felt my heart begin to race. My thoughts began to shift from the present to 17 years ago when our son was first diagnosed with OCD. Jared was 11 at the time and had gone away to overnight camp. 10 days later, on a glorious Saturday afternoon, my husband and I returned home to find a message on our answering machine asking us to call. Whenever a parent hears those words, you know something isn't okay. It wasn't. From that moment on, our lives were forever changed. The camp counselor described our son's behavior and said that he thought Jared had OCD. OCD? Obsessive-compulsive disorder? In my 22 years of teaching in one of the top elementary schools in the country, I had never heard the school psychologist mention this disorder. There must have been students who had gone through my classroom struggling with OCD, but without the information, I was unable to identify them, let alone see the signs on my own child. Jared left camp early that summer. Our journey to find the right treatment for our son began on July 10th, 1993. The first few months were extremely difficult for my family. The son I knew was no longer happy, but terrified. He found comfort in counting before he did anything. Sometimes he would count as high as 800 before putting on each sock and shoe. He refused to eat for fear there were germs. Going through doorways presented a problem. I could only imagine what he went through when it was time to return to school that fall. By then, I had done my research, read the only 3 books on OCD that were available at that time, and searched the World Wide Web that was just in the beginning stages. My husband and I prepared a letter for Jared's teachers who met with the 5th grade classes to explain the change in his behavior. The teachers were willing to do whatever was necessary to make our son feel comfortable. Unfortunately, it was not that simple. I knew that every day was a challenge for him, but I never really understood how much until I read Jared's memoir, The Thought That Counts, that was written and published by Oxford University Press after he graduated from college. That fall, before school started, I realized that I could no longer work full-time. Instead of requesting a leave, I requested a chance to job share. I had to be available for Jared, as there would be times when he would not make it through an entire day. My daughter needed me too. She tried to be the perfect daughter, but it was so obvious that she was sad inside. She and her brother had been so close. Alexis always protected Jared, and now she hadn't a clue what she should do. That year, she did her homework and received excellent grades, but she did not bring her friends home after school. Jared did the minimal, all he could handle. Many of his friends went on with their lives, but there were a few who remained true to him, even to this day. 9 months into Jared's full-blown onset of OCD, I was searching the web and came across the OCF website. There was an advertisement saying that there was going to be a national conference in Boston on OCD. My husband and I took turns attending the 3-day conference. One of us had to be home with Jared. At the conference, I met another woman from the Boston area who also had a son with OCD. It was the first time I was able to be honest and say what life had been like for our son and for our family. We sat over coffee and cried, laughed, and promised to keep in touch. It took years before Jared would be able and willing to attend an annual conference. After the first one he attended, he looked at us and asked if we would attend these conferences every year. For a while, we went as a family. Last year, Jared participated in several panels representing the professional community. This past May, he graduated from the Simmons Graduate School of Social Work. Alexis graduated this year with a doctorate in clinical psychology. Her life experiences definitely played a role in her career path. For our family, it has been important to give back. 11 years ago, my husband and I decided to host a fundraiser for the foundation, a coffee and a talk with Dr. Janicki in our home. It was clear to us that more money needed to be earmarked for OCD research. The most that had been given in a single year at that time was $89,000. Thus began our connection with the International OCD Foundation. It has been 10 years since I joined the board of directors. At each annual conference, my husband and I repeatedly heard how families in remote areas of the U.S. were unable to find therapists who use CBT for OCD. The IOCDF sponsors the Behavioral Therapy Training Institute, a 3-day intensive course on diagnosis and treatment of OCD, and related disorders designed by members of the Foundation's Scientific Advisory Board. After hearing about this program, my family started the Behavioral Therapy Institute Fund 5 years ago. The fund offered scholarships for treatment providers in undeserved areas of the country who were not trained in cognitive behavioral therapy. In the last few years, it has become increasingly evident that the tuition scholarships are not enough to defray the additional expenses. The therapists are hindered by personal outlays they incur, the airfares, food, and lodging. In addition, this is time away without pay. To be able to increase the number of attendees in remote locations around the country, several donors have joined my family in sponsoring full scholarships, tuition, airfare, food, and lodging. I encourage you to join us. An initiative close to my heart is the new website for kids and teens. If only this had been available when our son was first diagnosed with OCD, it may have made our search for the right treatment that much easier and faster. We would have been able to say to the school personnel to visit this website for up-to-date information. As you have heard, our journey as a family has been challenging, but along the way, I really believe that our family was one of the lucky ones. Jared has had wonderful people helping him, and for that I am truly thankful. Everyone in my family was affected by Jared's OCD. I'm sure that I will never fully comprehend what he goes through every day. But one thing is for sure, I am proud to be his mother and proud to say that he is my son. Dare to believe life will get easier and you are not alone. The IOCDF family is there for you. Okay, Megan. Megan Holden, winner of this year's storytelling contest. The title of her story is Gaining Control. Megan is a 19-year-old college student from Carlisle, Pennsylvania. She is currently studying in Philadelphia, where she aims to graduate in 2014 with a BF in graphic design. Megan has been battling OCD as long as she can remember. She entered this contest to educate others about this disorder that has played such a huge part in her life. This evening, Megan will read a portion of her writing story. And if you really should visit the website because it's a wonderful, wonderful piece of writing. Megan?
Hello, I'm Megan Holden, and I have an excerpt from my story that I wrote titled Gaining Control. And it's about a middle school age girl named Annabelle who's struggling with day-to-day life, and no one's quite sure what her struggle is, including her. We pick up about 2/3 into the story. The next day at school, Annabelle sat with her head bowed at her desk. The teacher looked up from her pile of papers and stared at Annabelle. "Annabelle, could you come up to my desk, please?" Annabelle stood from her seat and walked down the aisle of desks to her teacher's workstation. "I have a pass for you to see Mrs. McDermott." "That's not for me. Sorry," Annabelle said as she turned to go back to her seat. "Annabelle," the English teacher called after her, "as far as I know, you're the only Annabelle Miller in this class." Annabelle stopped and turned back to face her teacher. She then walked back to the large desk at the front of the room, took the pass, and left the classroom. Annabelle walked slowly down the hallway. After a few minutes, she reached the counseling office. She looked through the window that was built into the door and saw Mrs. McDermott seated at a desk. Mrs. McDermott looked up and beckoned her to come in. Annabelle took a deep breath and opened the door. "Hello, you must be Annabelle. Please, have a seat." Annabelle sat down and her eyes became fixed on the pens scattered on the table in front of her. "So, how are things here at school?" Mrs. McDermott asked. "Okay." "Annabelle, I'll be honest with you. Your parents and teachers have expressed concern regarding your attitude and grades recently. Is there anything you would like to tell me?" "Not really," Annabelle said as she shifted her weight in her chair. Her hand reached for the pen closest to her and placed it, pointed at the edge of the desk. "Annabelle, how would you explain your math grade?" Mrs. McDermott started again. Annabelle reached for the next pen and moved it in line with the first. Then she grabbed the third pen and switched it with the second. "Annabelle, is something the matter?" She didn't stop. Annabelle grabbed 3 more pens and set them in front of her. She rearranged the pen collection several more times before halting. Mrs. McDermott looked at the pens on the table. "Can you tell me about this?" Mrs. McDermott asked, motioning towards the table. "Can you tell me about what you were doing?" Annabelle shrugged. She looked back down at the pens, eyeing the last 2 in line. Her hand reached for the last pen and switched it with the one beside it. She looked back at the counselor, who looked back at Annabelle. "I think we are done here," Mrs. McDermott started. "You can go back to class." Mrs. McDermott finished her sentence with a smile. Annabelle stood up and went back to class. That afternoon, Mrs. Miller drove up to the front of the school to pick up her daughter once again. "Hi, honey," Mrs. Miller called. "Hi, Mom," Annabelle said. "I got a call from your counselor today," Mrs. Miller said. "Mrs. McDermott said you are a very nice girl, and that after meeting with you, she doesn't believe you are involved in any drug activities. However, she did say that you should see a certain specialist," Mrs. Miller continued. Annabelle turned to face her mother. "What? Why do I need to see a specialist?" "Now, honey, calm down," Mrs. Miller paused. "She said you showed signs of obsessive-compulsive disorder. Apparently, it's a very common problem, and people affected by it can get caught up doing rituals. Your episode with the stove seems to fit the doctor's description perfectly." "That's ridiculous. Mom, I already made the appointment for after school tomorrow. The doctor's name is Dr. Reinhardt, and he sounded very nice over the phone," Mrs. Miller said. "I don't need a doctor," Annabelle yelled. "This is not open for discussion," her mother replied. When they arrived home, Annabelle marched straight to her room, slamming the door behind her. The next day at school, Annabelle gathered up her notebooks and binders. The final bell rang with an annoying buzz, and students were funneled through the classroom doorways and into the halls. Annabelle followed the path towards her locker. She approached the blue compartment and put in her combination. Annabelle grabbed her lunch, went to shut the door, and stopped. She flung the door open and looked into the locker again. She saw nothing. Annabelle shut the door and listened to the latch. She walked halfway down the aisle, then froze. Still and silent, Annabelle looked at the floor. Every muscle in her body was fighting to walk forward rather than turn to her locker. It didn't work. She turned, walked back to the locker, and put in the combination. Annabelle could hear the bus's engine start, then drive away. Apollo Junior High School was empty of students except for Annabelle. After 8 more sessions of opening, checking, and closing the locker, Annabelle made her way to the office. "Missed the bus again?" the secretary said as she looked at the shell of a student standing in front of her. Annabelle said nothing, but reached for the phone and dialed her home number. "Hello," Mrs. Miller answered on the other end. "Mom, can you come pick me up? And hurry. I don't want to be late for the doctor.
Megan Holden. Megan, if you will stay up here with us, I'm going to ask you to take this microphone
Okay.
and have a chance to chat a little bit about this. I think what I like so much about Megan's story is that Annabelle really captures what OCD is all about. And that's not easy to do when you're talking about a fictional character. And so I have to ask you the obvious question. What was your inspiration for Annabelle?
Well, I'd have to say it was a little bit of me. A lot of me.
And tell us what it was like to be able to channel you into Annabelle and use her as this wonderful vehicle for telling the world what OCD is all about.
It was hard at first. I originally did this as a high school graduation project. And just in high school, it's a lot harder to be yourself and be true to who you are and what you're struggling with. And when I started out, it was a lot harder, but by the time I finished it, it was like sort of liberating in a way to talk about how Annabelle was dealing with everything. I mean, even the way her parents acted was sort of based on my parents in a way. I talked to them a lot about what it was like to have a daughter with OCD and not know exactly what was going on and what they would think. So,
I think one of the things that I always appreciate about good fiction is the ability to kind of compress time. And what you've done here is you've taken Annabelle's journey and compressed it a little bit because we get to see how the agony led to her acceptance of wanting therapy. Let's talk about that a little bit in terms of how that played out for you as well.
yeah, I've had OCD as long as I can remember, but I remember the exact day and the exact time where I figured out it was time to tell my parents and talk to them about it. So I sort of channeled that to Annabelle, and that's how the story went.
You and I had a chance to chat a little bit earlier tonight, and we were talking about, again, bringing all this back to the theme tonight of daring to believe and the idea of risking. And again, clearly you, like Mystery and Megan and the rest have really, I'm sorry, Kendra and the rest have really had to step up and put yourself out there and risk this being vulnerable in front of people. And I know that's not easy for any of us. And why are you doing that tonight? I mean, why are you willing to put yourself out there at the risk of making yourself uncomfortable to help other people tonight?
Because it's always been such a big part of my life, and I think the discomfort is worth sharing my message and my story to others, and I really think that that could help them. And I think that's worth a little bit of discomfort and anxiety. So.
Well, I hope you realize how much this audience appreciates your being up here tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, don't leave, because I'm not going to forget to give you your award this time. So for your outstanding short story of gaining control, we're proud to award this to you tonight, Megan. Thank you so much. I have an eBay message, and if you'll allow me just a moment here, I will get that for you. We want to let everyone here and watching at home on your computer screens around the world tonight know that we have some very exciting listings at the Foundation's eBay page. Some of these items include a package of free registrations, hotel stay, and airfare to our 19th annual conference coming up in July in Chicago. We also have a collection of 7 books on OCD, all signed by the authors. And if you want to view some of these items and put your bids in on those items, we invite you to visit the Foundation's Awareness Week page, which you will find at our website, ocfoundation.org. Well, we're just about to move along to our final award winner tonight. And this is going to be a very fun one, I think, for all of you, because we have a musical entry that we're going to share with you. But first, it's my pleasure to bring up my good buddy, Michael Janicki, and he wears many hats for us here at the OCD Foundation. But I think we can add to that believer-in-chief, because believing, as we've talked about tonight, is really about seeing things that other people can't see, seeing things that aren't necessarily apparent to the rest of us. And Michael and I think you will all agree, because you all know Michael for so many years with this foundation, refuses to not see what is possible out there. When the rest of the world has given up on somebody with extreme OCD, Michael is on the first plane to go meet that person to see what he can do to help out. And that, to me, is the ultimate form of belief, is seeing what other people can't see in terms of potential. So, Michael, just want to thank you for all you've done in our community to share that ability to believe with these people. I am indeed. So, Michael, come on up here and you get to present our final award tonight.
One of my jobs is to give Jeff a lot of aggravation every time I work with him, but I just think he deserves a huge hand for the way he's managed this tonight. He is fantastic. And I'll tell you the other side of the story a little bit later. So my job is to introduce Kevin, but before that I thought I'd do a little exposure for Jeff Szymanski. And those of you that are home, see if he can resist coming up here. When I think of Dare to Believe, I actually think of all the parents that I deal with whose kids often will not agree to treatment, won't accept treatment. And I know a lot of you out there in this kind of situation. You're working to figure out OCD and your kids say, I don't care, or I'm too scared, I don't want to do it, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm angry at you because you took me to a doctor 10 years ago who didn't know what I should say she was doing because, well, sorry. And I just want to mention quickly a meeting I just got back from last night in Austin, Texas about pandas. Are you familiar with what that is? Infectious forms of OCD and other mental illnesses. It looks like this may be way, way more common than we thought. We had some of the best scientists in the world there, and this was all set up by parents who have kids with pandas infectious disease. And they presented videos of their kids that were incredibly touching. Before, completely normal kid, and then they get a virus or a strep or mycoplasma or some kind of infection, H1N1, and the day later or 2 days later they turn into monsters. They're obsessing, they're screaming, they're hitting, they will not eat, their handwriting changes, and their school behavior goes downhill over 2 or 3 days. And then they take them to the doctors, and the doctors tell them all kinds of crazy things. They don't know what's going on. One woman was told by a woman psychiatrist that this was all caused in her doctor because she breastfed too long. And these parents are angry, and they've gotten they got me involved. I'm not really a child person, but to try and help get things moving. Well, I was a child once. I was a child person. I didn't mean to imply I was born this way, like Lady Gaga or anything like that. But so this was an incredible meeting. I only understood about half what was going on because there are world-class immunologists and geneticists there. But the things are really moving. They're really making progress, and we're going to keep at this and try and fund research to figure this out. So it may be, if a child has OCD that develops overnight, that the best treatment is antibiotics. And if you fail to give those antibiotics within a certain window, the child may have OCD their whole life. So maybe we can prevent OCD in many, many children by these kinds of more novel approaches. So there's a lot of people who don't believe this. If you go down there and listen to these patients and their families and hear about the stories, you really do believe that infections can cause OCD, and it might be way more than we had ever thought. So that's my little speech. So parents are daring to believe, and they've actually gotten me a new hobby, and it's this infectious pandas stuff that we're trying to figure out. Now, after having said that, Kevin. Where's Kevin? Oh, he's over there. See his suit? I actually had that on earlier, but he liked it so much that he insisted that I let him have it. But I let him use his own handkerchief because I don't use handkerchiefs. Kevin is, he said they took a 21-hour straight drive here in a van with all of their musical equipment. I think there's 5 of them, and a dog. Oh, no dog? She lied to me? Oh, she's out of the band. She told me a fib. All right. Kevin is the winner of this year's music contest. Kevin has suffered from OCD since he was 10 years old. After completing 2 months of treatment for his debilitating OCD at the Houston OCD program, Kevin wrote a rap song, Breaking the Symmetry. I like that. I don't like rap, but I like that title. I mean, about OCD as his creative way of thanking the staff who he truly believes saved his life. Kevin is also the creator of a ping pong tournament called Ping Pong for OCD to raise awareness and funds for OCD in Kevin's community in northwestern Michigan. The 4 in Ping Pong for OCD represents the 4 principles that have put Kevin on the road to recovery and guide him each and every day. I won't read the 4 principles because one of them is reassurance, and we teach people not to do reassurance, but he may be able to explain that. So Kevin's going to perform for us.
I thought I would first come up here, and usually when people start, they check the mic, but again, I'm a checker, so it's not something I should do. So it sounds like the mic is working, and that works well. And then I got to let Dr. Jamansky off the hook here, because this was definitely an exposure for me as well here with this on here. But I thought, you know what? No, that's nice. Somebody else got one too. My favorite exposure lately was the contest for this song, because I'm not quite sure if this was people trying to use kind of comedy with OCD, but what they did, I don't know of anyone who did the online voting. They put 4 people with OCD into a contest with unlimited voting. And I said to my wife, I said, whoever wins this thing is the person that's not going to sleep for a week. You know, vote, refresh, vote, refresh. And so I called up my therapist, who I worked with in Houston, Dr. Carrie Brown, and I emailed her and I said, Carrie, I have to use this as an exposure. I said, because I want to log in and vote and vote and vote, and I know that I shouldn't. I did vote for myself. I can't say that I didn't. But I said, as my exposure is to not vote. And so I guess halfway through, somebody voted 1,000 times in an hour and crashed the whole system. And then they had to go to 1 vote per IP address, which really made me laugh. I thought it was great. I really did. So this song is called Breaking the Symmetry, and I'm really happy. I brought my band, Boyne River Remedy, here. I have Mark Blauhera on guitar. I have Dwayne Wilson on drums. Jen Scoppin and Stebleton are singing, and we actually had one of our members that was not able to make the band or to make the trip. His name is Drew Barr, and we really miss him today. We wish he was here, but it just didn't work out. This song is for the Houston OCD program. I wrote it for them. I was there for treatment, and I got back, and it was time I wanted to do something, and the song was inside of me, and it was for them because the Houston OCD program, they saved my life, and this song is for them. I just have to say hi to everybody back in Petoskey, Michigan. I have my wife and my daughter, my 2 daughters and my family that are watching, and I'm really excited that they're out there. And we're going to perform a song for you guys, so I hope you like it. Go ahead.
Anxiety is a part of me. CBT has set me free. Houston Castle Court is the place for ERP to habituate.
When I think back to my 10th year, when my OCD began, trying on my socks marked left and right was for my just right plan. Unbeknownst to me, my life was overcome with symmetry, checking and rechecking, and that over-responsibility. It was back in college in a class they called Psych 101. I was learning info that was ringing loud just like a gun shot. I did not understand and think it was to worry me. If I knew then what I know, I would have set myself so free. My destiny, survival mode, I held it down for 2 years. Kevin's days were sacrificed to deep anxieties and fears. In the month of March, I hit rock bottom, and I crashed and burned. Out of work for days, it left my family and friends concerned. Benjamin's on therapy for months and years with no relief. Depression, no functioning, had caused my wifey plenty grief. Turning to the internet, found help in the H-Town. Texas was the state where God placed me with Dr. Angel Brown. Yeah. is for Houston. I hope you guys are watching. My man Jelani keeps it real straight, knowledge on his iPhone. Sue was earning street cred, rolling on the swagger wagon chrome. No one claims the footstep 4K buried in her laptop. Rachel makes for sure the right on time the group room TV stop. Marinated chicken and that hot grilled green asparagus. Rolling in the van with John P. Linders like a shortened butt. Melanie and Brandon show a tend to only go to sleep on the futon in the office, plus they hardly make a peep. Even though she's pregnant, Jenny likes to sport the high heel. Carrie's mostly right in time, she keeps her sessions nice and real. If I did not drop your name or mention it up in this song, please don't have your feelings hurt. I know to admit your name was wrong. All of you are special and you help me out in every way. Pill exposures at the park and ride supporters every day. Even though my Houston treatment was done by a dream team. For some extra help, I called some gap for Mr. OC. Yo, 1 in 100 adults, or between 2 and 3 million adults in the U.S. currently have OCD. Studies find that it takes an average of 14 to 17 years from the time OCD begins for people to obtain appropriate treatment. So if you're struggling, or you know somebody who is,
get help.
Life is too short not to truly live it. Yeah. Smelling sweeter than a plate with extra hummus. There was not a crazy resident who lived among us. OCD is stuck up in our minds and it is not fair. All of us in question how the heck it flipping got there. Calling out for help cause we need freedom from this prison beat. OCD is strong and it's our life that we are missing. G. Medicines may work but you must keep up with your refills. Treatment centers really leave your pockets with some deep bills. 7 large a day for one-on-one and whole group therapy. CBT plus ERP equals more time with the family. I am thankful for the brick house vessels in the monsters. Neighborhood of orange cones and concrete construction roads. Getting healthy is the fire that burns deep down within my soul. Spread the truth of OCD within this song that is the goal. Never lose your hope, keep your head up like Tupac always said. Exercise and mindfulness each day before I lay my head. Boyne River Remedy.
Oh, man. Kevin. And Dr. Janicki's suit looks good on you, by the way. Come on up here. Let's talk. Boyne River Remedy, by the way, is the band. And as Michael said, these guys drove 21 hours to be here tonight. How about a big round of applause for these kind folks who are out here doing this? You and I are supposed to switch
sides here? Okay.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I had the wrong
no?
voice. No, it's a symmetry thing. Yeah.
Symmetry, that's
okay.
right. I'll stand like this.
All right.
Yeah.
So many questions for you. Where to start? All right. So, I don't have to ask you what inspired this song. You've told us your song is about your journey.
Definitely.
What does it take to put that down in a rhyme like you've done here? I mean, how long does that take?
This is the first song I've ever written. And what happened was Mark, who's over there on guitar, when I was in treatment, he knows I like rap music. And so he playing around and he made a beat and he sent it to me in the treatment center, and he thought that maybe that could be something to keep my mind off what was going on or give me a chance to do, just kind of relax. And I didn't really listen to it when I was there, but when I got home from treatment, I felt like I wanted to do something to, you know, write a book, and I know I'm not a writer by any means. And so I started listening to that beat, and the song just came out of me. So it seemed very simple to write it down. It was almost like all I had to do was sit at the computer and allow it to happen, and it did.
I'll ask you the same question that I've been asking all of our winners tonight. Putting yourself out there. I mean, this is putting yourself out there in a big way, not only as a musician, but as somebody with a very personal story. How tough is that for you?
At first, it was difficult, but then as I started to do it, it felt good each time. I would share with people and kind of talk about it, and it was almost like a weight off, like I was able to become myself and tell everyone, you know, this is me, this is what I have, and just really through sharing was able to feel better about it and ultimately, hopefully, helping other people.
Talk to our audience tonight, in fact, those folks who aren't here but are watching again around the world, about the hope that you know treatment affords, because you are one of our success stories. You are a guy who found his way into the right treatment, endured the rigors of that treatment, came out the other side, and here you are tonight.
The first thing I probably should say is I don't work for the Houston OCD program. I'm not, I don't get any kickbacks. Dr. Bjork Vincent doesn't, you know, shine my shoes before I perform or anything like that. It's just I was fortunate enough, for my wife. I was debilitated on the couch, and it was my wife who got on the internet and found the Houston OCD program and put me on a plane and flew me down there and enrolled me in the program. And it's such an amazing place. And just to be able to have gone through that and to know that there is hope and there is help. And one of my problems was where I was living in northern Michigan was not there wasn't the treatment providers. The help was not there. And so I needed to go somewhere else to find that help, and I was fortunate enough to be able to do that. But the help is out there. There's organizations like the IOCDF that are able to afford or to provide the help for people and help people find treatment providers. And I was so fortunate to have done that, and I feel that more people can definitely benefit from that as well.
And Kevin, before I let you go, I want to shift gears entirely and ask you about something that has nothing to do with your music tonight, but about another big program that you're intimately involved with called Ping Pong for OCD. And for folks who don't know about the program, tell us real quickly what Ping Pong for OCD is all about.
Ping Pong for OCD was a ping pong tournament that we had last year, and basically it was the gimmick because when I left treatment, I talked with my therapist a lot about starting a support group. And I didn't think that I could just put a sign on the door and say, okay, tomorrow night we're going to start this support group. I didn't think anybody would come. And so I thought, okay, I want to have an event, maybe a black tie affair or a 5 run, and nothing really fit. And so we came up with this idea to pull out a ping pong table and invite some people over and play ping pong, and the next thing I know, we had a venue and 8 ping pong tables and 70 people, and we were on live TV and live radio, and it just really kind of took off. So we're actually April 21st of next year, we're planning our second Ping Pong for OCD tournament, and what it is, it's a way to advocate for OCD, build awareness, and try and break down stigma.
By the way, as a side note, I think I overheard our OCDF president, Diane Davies, saying, I think I can win that thing. So she might be making the 21-hour drive that way for the tournament.
That'd be great.
I wanted to bring up Ping Pong for OCD because one of my great passions these days is exploring what one person can do to make a huge difference. And I can't think of a better example, Kevin, than what you have done with Ping Pong for OCD. One guy, one crazy idea. What does ping pong have to do with OCD?
Absolutely nothing.
Absolutely nothing. But has turned this into this amazing fundraiser that is going to have a second annual and is raising money and raising awareness. And I think you are a shining light of what can be done. So I salute you for that.
Thank you.
Big round of applause for what Kevin Putnam has done. Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks a lot, Jeff.
Michael wants his suit back, but you can take this home with you, okay? All right. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Woo. Wow. It dawns on me that really our message is so simple for the OCD community. It's about conveying the hope that treatment offers. It's just that simple. And what's so exciting about tonight is that we are finding all these new ways to convey that message. We've got Kevin providing it in the form of a rap song. We've got Megan giving us a wonderful fictionalized account of what it's like to live with OCD. We've got beautiful young Mystery giving us her poetry to tell us what it's about. And Kendra making us all laugh, but sharing a message so powerful. And I think that is the message of tonight, as much as Dare to Believe. It's that we have a very simple, straightforward message. And our challenge as an OCD community is to get that out to the rest of the world who has not yet discovered the hope that is out there. One piece of housekeeping to share for those of you who did put in your bids for the remaining time that we have here tonight. You can head by the front desk area. There is a whiteboard, and it will tell you who our lucky winners are of those various items that were up for auction. Want to thank again McLean for co-sponsoring tonight. Big round of applause for McLean Hospital. Want to thank our very hard-working IOCDF staff, from Jeff Szymanski to Michael Spiegler to Victor and Pam. Who am I forgetting here? Marissa. Fran, of course, is holding the whole thing together today on the technical side. The whole staff has been working so hard to make all of this happen. Thanks to Diane and her leadership and the rest of our board. Thanks to Dr. Janicki for being himself out here and always putting a smile on her face. And thanks to you. It's been an amazing evening. We can't wait to see what we do next year as a follow-up for this. And if you will indulge me in one small little favor here as we wrap up the evening, because we have a collection of several hundred people here and a worldwide audience watching us right now via the web, I would like for us together to close out the night with those 3 words that define this evening. I'm going to count down from 3, and let's all say it together for the rest of the world to hear. 3, 2, 1. Dare to believe. Thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight.